Our next speaker is Kağan Sümer. Kağan is CEO and co-founder of Gorillas. Founded in Berlin 2020, Gorillas aim to do nothing less than revolutionize food delivery by delivering in less than 10 minutes from order. Well, I think there's a lot to discuss, a lot to report and a lot to discuss. Welcome, Kağan. Ich hoffe, ist jetzt zu sehen.
Yeah.
Hi, hello.
How are you doing? How's everything?
How are you? And where are you exactly?
I'm in Berlin now. Like I was listening to Thomas, and I think completely right. Zwischenstadt is always underrated. You know, I always thought that it was so underrated. I loved Zwischenstadt, so I'm with him completely.
Great.
Cool.
Before you start, Kağan, just one question. What do Gorillas have to do with food delivery?
Food delivery?
What do Gorillas have to do with food delivery?
Yeah, you mean the name, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, in the beginning it was Get Goodies. So actually, this is the first cap of the company, so Get Goodies. But you know, I hated the name, and at some point I was thinking, okay, like I was asking my creative friends, you know, like how can we name this company? And they told me that it's about trust, it's about freshness and everything. And I was thinking, there's Rewe, there's Aldi, there's Bio Company, and these people, like they have been building this fresh and trust. And if you actually play for trust, like it's a losing battle, you know, like I would never buy from Get Goodies anything that I wouldn't trust Get Goodies. So I said, who are we at the core? And at the core, we are a super bold company, very authentic people. And at some point when I came up with Gorillas, it was no way back, you know, it's now it's going.
Okay, then I look forward to the next 15, 20 minutes and back to the future. And after that, we have time for a Q&A. And I invite everyone in the live stream again to ask your questions in the chat. So, please, Kağan.
Yeah, super cool. So, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. I mean, I don't feel like an expert in this topic, but I mean, somehow I'm dealing with real estate at the moment, and I really admire how this industry has been evolved over the course of years. I have super respect to who is listening to me at the moment. This is like in the beginning, this is what it is. And today I'm just going to talk about, you know, who are you talking to, who am I, and a little bit like how it all began and why I think and then I'm going to talk about like why I think Gorillas is the real deal. You know, like what we do is going to be super transformative, not only in what we do, but also will have impact on real estate industry, especially by creating a new asset class. And I'm going to talk about like a little bit what I think is going to happen. Everything is fortune telling, and I don't have I'm not sure if it's going to happen that way, but I think it's going to happen that way. So maybe let me begin with, you know, how it all began and who you're talking to. I'm Kağan, born and raised in Istanbul, not in a nutshell, entrepreneur with management consulting background. And I mean, if you know three things about me, I love bikes. Like one thing is I went to China with my bike. I carry my bike all around, and I'm a huge bike fan. And now that we have this second biggest consumer spend changing on two wheels is super special. And I quite like that, like next to housing, we can transform the second biggest consumer spend on two wheels is super special. And second thing is I love team sports. I love people heavy businesses, and I love consumer businesses. So this is more or less like who I am. And now Gorillas is in the intersection of all of these. It's been a sweet obsession, yeah. And actually, we didn't have a warehouse when it all began. So maybe I tell you a little bit like how it all began and how we kind of try to understand what we really need on the real estate perspective. In the beginning, I just found €5 on the bill, stick to my leg. I went to my room, emptied the living room, built the shelves, get the products from Metro, and we just begin selling goods. Yeah, and then like my ex-wife told me, you know, you need to get a warehouse. I want to do my yoga inside of this. I said, okay, let me get a warehouse, 80 meters square. You know, like we put everything inside. We begin operating. First you use the half, then we use the other half, and early on we realized that, okay, it's not about 80 meters square. It's like this is something going to be much more bigger, and it's going to be around 300 to 600 meters square place that we need. And early on, like while we're realizing what we need for the real estate, but we also we realize that there's no such a real estate asset class. So we realize that there are some you know, like there are some restaurants that we can use, there are some old supermarkets that we can use, but none of them actually serve for our real, you know, like real specs. Then we said, okay, like soon we need to identify what a new asset class should look like. This was the second thing that we realized, you know, while building it. And third thing, what we realized is there's a myth that this rent is a very big component of our P&L. So basically, you should negotiate. Like, I mean, if there are anyone who's providing real estate to companies like us, we can pay more. You know, like it's a very interesting, because it's a super small component of the P&L. So these are like the things that we discovered on the way, but we discovered one more thing, which was why this model is actually super transformative. So in the beginning, it was a simple belief. We said, like, if you go to the moon, there should be something else. You shouldn't go to the supermarket. And we realized that it's really the case, you know, like it's a different experience. It's not like you go to the supermarket, there's a conveyor belt, you put your stuff, and after that, you be nice to the cashier, credit card and cash. Like it's almost like a hypocrisy. Then you carry all of this home. In our case, it was really different. How, like, the experience that we had with the consumer, they were almost like sometimes they were having this Zoom calls showing like to the friends, family, like there's something like this exists. And we began thinking about like why this is really transformative, why there's a reaction from our community in this way. And we began thinking a little bit about like the abstractly, like why this is transforming. So if you look at the grocery space, there are three types. Like it's a super big one, 14 trillion. You know, like it's one of the two biggest spends. One is housing, as you know, and the second one is you need to stay somewhere and you need to eat things. But essentially, there are three use cases. 1 to 8 SKUs, emergency purchases. You need one thing, you need to get it. There is no way to get it at the moment. You know, you need to dress up, go get it. Otherwise, online, you need to wait until next day. Like it's a horrible experience. Second use case is you open your fridge, you look inside of your fridge, and you get sad about your life. You know, like you want things to appear inside of your fridge, and you need things at this moment, but there's no solution. These are not the biggest problems, but 2/3 of the market is underserved. People want things and people cannot get things. I think the biggest problem is there's this other 1/3 called bulk purchases or weekly purchases, and it's super served. There are like huge supermarkets inside of the city. You know, like everything is catered towards people buying big amounts of things. And these instances, people buy things when they don't need things for the times that they will need in next week. So this is super counterintuitive. I mean, what we said is, look, man, imagine we are in the cave and there's no food in the cave. Imagine we sit all together, like 500 of us. We are in the cave, there's no food. Would you really wait for Saturday? Or would you just go out to the first apple tree and grab one apple and take a bite? So fundamentally, hard-coded thing is inside that we want things, we get things. So this was our hypothesis, and this is exactly what happened. What we saw is our community is shifting their share of wallet from bulk purchases to smaller purchases, and not necessarily, there are not so big purchases happening in Gorillas, about 100 euros or something, but frequency is constantly increasing because our community is shifting their traditional supermarket purchases more and more to on-demand items. This is this blowed our mind, and then we were thinking about, okay, like, but what do we do for what does this model do for the greater good, you know, in terms of sustainability, in terms of fresh consumption, making people best version of themselves? What do we do about this? And early on, we realized that what we sell is not 2 beers, 1 chips. And actually, if you look at our top selling 20 items, you don't even see a single beer. You know, it's quite interesting. In the beginning, we said, oh, maybe we make a big mistake on our assortment, but actually, it's not, because this is the answer basically. I mean, imagine you buy berries on your Saturday purchase, like 4 of them. Good luck eating them at the end of the week because they all go moldy. So people want to consume fresh, and consumption of fresh is super immediate. Like you need to consume fresh when they are fresh, otherwise it goes moldy. And having this infrastructure, new logistic network, is actually enabling the people to eat fresh. So that's why the model is a sustainable and healthy living model itself. Once we realized this, we were thinking about, you know, like actually super connected to housing. When I look at all of these new developments, I see that, don't you want a better life? Like, it's a dream to have a better life. And we also thought a little bit about, okay, once we have this infrastructure, how can we really make people's life better? And how can we make something good to the world? And I think if you think about the housing, now there are smart homes and everything, and then there's this consumption, the delivery companies, but there's always have been a missing link. Like, we never knew how to make ourselves best version of ourselves, you know? And I think there will be a transformation from where we are today to all of the real estate, gorillas models, and health tech combines to make people best version of themselves. So maybe I walk you through what I think is going to happen. It might be completely rubbish, by the way, but I think this is what's going to happen. So first of all, in the short term, the companies like us, we all realize that there's no such an asset class. We don't know how it's going to look like. Probably it's going to be somewhere between 300 to 600 meters square. It's going to be in the Zwischenlagerung and Kernstadt. I don't know if it's the right term, but it should be like in the dense areas. And the current available supply is super in the neighborhoods. That's why it's going to create a lot of issues, regulatory issues in the beginning. This is the first challenge. How you can create an asset class that's like semi-industrial, and there are no neighborhood problems, and it's actually good for the neighborhood, and there are no regulatory issues around this space. So this is going to be the first problem that we need to solve. And then once we solve this, we will know exactly how this location is exactly going to look like. It's going to be only gorillas, it's going to be pharmacy inside, it's going to be ghost kitchens inside, and it's going to be, I don't know, parcel delivery inside. So basically get that space and optimize for profit per meter cube with consumer focus. So this is the first stage. And the second stage is going to be about creating this asset class. And how can we create this asset class? In the new developments, how can we make sure that we have this predefined asset class somehow structured, like the previous presentation? You saw this logistic hub, like maybe another box, like a micro fulfillment center. Once we have this, I think the third step will be, what should be how can we get this new asset class into a new financial instrument, more or less like a real estate as a service or infrastructure as a service. So what I mean by that is, I mean, CapEx investment for a company like us is quite a lot, because we pay it with equity. But there will be some financial instruments around this new asset class, and it's going to begin quite soon, in my point of view. It's going to be a turnkey real estate as a service business, like Reef in United States that's doing for ghost kitchens. And in my point of view, once we come to that point, there will be two different rental models. One will be lease consolidation. I might be completely off, by the way, but there will be one real estate fund kind of thing. They will either connect leases and then they will have cheap leases and lease us to our companies like us with a markup. Second one is going to be really getting all the property development and having long-term rentals to companies like Gorillas. I think these are going to be the two things. And in the future, I think this is going to happen in 3 to 5 years. I think in the future, it's like fortune telling. Maybe drone deliveries will come and all of the logistic hubs will go to the rooftop. I don't know, but I think there will be a connection, like a binder between what we do, real estate, and health. And this is health tech. What I try to say is this: we always thought about smart homes, smart fridges, subscription models, XYZ, like facility management system included with the consumption. But actually, the binder is not an empty fridge, but the binder is what a person is at this very moment. Just to give an example, I use this Aura ring at the moment, and like this ring knows that I had a date yesterday. I slept quite well. I need to drink water. I need to eat berries, XYZ. And basically, it knows exactly what I need to consume in terms of edibles. But this is just one part. If you think about like how smart homes and how a infrastructure model like Gorillas can make people best version of themselves, is multiple things. It's what you eat, what you eat. How is your spiritual life? How is your sports life? How is your love life? How is your do you like what you do? And how are your finances? And it will all, like where you live is a big part of it, and what you eat is a big part of it, and the content you consume is a big part of it. So in my point of view, in these 15-minute cities, all of these will be combined around the health tech and the interpretation of that health tech data. So that's why, in my point of view, maybe it's completely off. Who am I to say what's going to happen in 10 years? But I think there's going to be this kind of a combination. So maybe I should stop here. Maybe I stop here and ask your questions, hear your questions, so that we use the time based on what you want to hear, what I think, if it's fine for you. But just to recap, it began quite organically, and I believe that there's no asset class. I believe there's a huge potential in this asset class, both for the real estate industry and for the better cities. And in my point of view, and this is like an inevitable change that's going to happen. Maybe I believe we will do this change, but if we don't do it, I'm sure someone else will do it.
Thank you, Kağan. That was very passionate, I must say. So, any comments on that? Any questions? Christian.
Why did you choose Berlin as your starting point? It's the most competitive kind of food market.
I cannot hear.
Sorry.
Why did you choose Berlin as your starting point? It's the most competitive food distribution market. It's a very strong regulatory environment for anything around real estate and any innovations. So why were you attracted to come to Berlin?
I mean, so one personal, I think the reason is quite uneducated. So I was living in Berlin, and I love Berlin, and I did it in Berlin. This is the honest answer. But if you want me to tell something more educated about it, because I thought, after I built in Berlin, I thought about why it worked in Berlin. So if I would be completely smart about the decision, I wouldn't build in Berlin. But then I realized that exactly because of the reasons that you mentioned, the level of innovation is at 80s. But what we bring is 2025, yeah? So that's why the moment you use what we deliver, you say that, wow, like this is something incredible, like I have to talk about it. And this created a viral impact, and it increased product market fit quite drastically. So I think this is one thing that what worked really well. Second thing is, I think this model, regardless of the regulatory environment, I think these are all small challenges that will be solved on the way. It was the least competitive least competitive capital when it comes to a delivery landscape. When we begin building here, there was like 3-4 players that had a war. They had a bitter taste. They went out. People didn't want to enter Berlin anymore, and there was only Lieferando, which was a questionable experience. So like the landscape was quite open for another player, and also, I mean, also I like Berlin. It's a quite a nice place.
Okay, next question.
You know, I saw gorillas as somebody who is delivering food in 10 minutes time when I need it, when I open the fridge. Did I understand you correctly that your idea is to bring together healthcare data with delivery food and then using all the data for something wider platform?
So not to use all of the data. So basically, so the thing is,
Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe I didn't understood it right or correct, because I thought I hear healthcare data, and I do have a problem to get healthcare data in connection with food delivery, and I checked your website, and so could you explain this bridge from healthcare to food delivery?
Yeah, sure. I can take even one step back. So if you think about Apple, so do you use an Apple, or for sure you use a smartphone, right? Yeah, cool. So 10 years ago, like why use an Apple, like why Apple is, for example, if I use an Apple, I use an iPhone, I use an iMac. And the thing that Apple cashed is, in my point of view, they cashed the individualism in the society, and everyone wanted to be individuals. And that's why, you know, people begin having like their personal phones, their personal spaces. You have your personal apps, and no one knows anything about it. And inside of that app, you have your personal world that you try to design to become best, to design your best version of your life, right? Do you believe that you have done it? I believe many of the people, in our society, they think that they haven't reached it. So it created a lot of insecure overachievers. I'm one of them. Yeah. So these insecure overachievers, then they created their second profiles in something called social media, and they all wanted to become best version of themselves, but they didn't know that if they are best version of themselves. Then after that, they projected themselves as best version of themselves. So what is to become best version of yourself? It's super decomposable, and there are studies around it. It has a couple of dimensions. One is what you eat. One is how you sleep. One is how you train. One is how you are spiritually. One is how your finances, and one is are you satisfied with what you do in life? So if you really think about the components of these dimensions, it's super decomposable, and health, and realize, and all of them has implications in your health, you know, and because it has implications in your health, like this ring that I have on my finger knows exactly what's my chemistry at the moment. And the moment I have my chemistry, it exactly knows what I need to consume to actually become a better version of myself in this very moment. Imagine your 10 minutes physical proximity to 20% of world's population, and seconds further from, like world's 20% of world's population. I mean, it's super easy to help this person to meditate. It's super easy to actually send this person some fresh berries to have better, better mind space, and send some healthy oils. So basically, consumption and smart life is always, there are some, like there's always been a gap, and health tech is the connector of these two things. Of course, like maybe 10 years ago, if I would tell you you're going to have an iPhone in your pocket and everyone is going to have it, and you're going to have your personal world inside, you might also say that I really don't understand where you get it. But I think if you look at this, there's a company in China who is doing exactly what I mentioned, by the way, and also in MIT they are working on this at the moment. Also, there's a company in US that's also building this, but also only the connection part. Then what they try to do is they begin from this connection API, and they're gonna connect the smart home, the smart delivery, the smart health, the smart tech. What I want to do is I want to begin with this infrastructure, because I believe that infrastructure is 80% of edibles are 80% of becoming best version of yourself. So this is the connection. If I explained it. Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry. Okay. I have a question, or let's say several questions, from Felix Junghans from Allianz. So how do you storage your food?
Sorry.
Can you understand me, Kağan?
Yes. I just got excited because this alliance is like this. I have to give a serious and proper answer.
So first question is, how do you storage your food? How big is the average storage room, or should be? What are the requirements? And how are you making profit? If the price is nearly the same as on Rewe, for example.
Yeah. So we store our goods in two places: one in our distribution centers and one in our micro fulfillment centers within the cities. And also the third storage is moving storage, like where we deliver from the distribution centers to our micro fulfillment centers. And I mean, you can imagine a normal distribution center like Havi or like like any third party logistics company has. It's like central locations, like decent central locations for the country that will send us to our hubs. So we have two locations like this in Germany, one for south, one for north. And within the city, we store in our micro fulfillment centers 300 to 600 meters square, ideally to the upper bound. And we have cold storage. We have you can imagine a supermarket that you cannot get inside, basically. We have cold storage. We have like normal storage, and we have some other storage for fresh items and fruits and vegetables. So this is more or less how we store. The requirements is, you can imagine a supermarket, like it's very, very similar to a smaller format supermarket, but with only one difference: it doesn't need to be in a super high frequency, high traffic area. It can be, ideally it shouldn't be there, because otherwise it creates a lot of neighborhood issues. This was the first question, I think. Second question was?
Second question is, what are the requirements? That was the third, but nearly the same. And how are you making profit if the price is quite the same as it is when we go to Rewe?
Exactly. So basically, we buy our goods at the moment to wholesalers, but soon, like slowly, we go to direct procurement, and the margins are sitting like in the life of this company. It begins normally from 15% and it goes to 50%. Now we are around, including logistic costs, around 33% gross margins. So imagine a basket of 25 euros. You already begin with 7.5 contribution margin. On top, you have the delivery fee. On top, you have digital assets. You get around like a bit north of 10 euros of contribution margin. And imagine you deliver in 10 minutes, and average delivery distance is 1 kilometer. So when I do the deliveries myself, I do up to four rides per rider hour. And so, I mean, normally you pay like with the sick leaves and everything. We employ all of our bike crew, so we pay like 3 to 4 euros for the delivery part, and the rest, like almost all our fixed costs except packaging and credit card fees. That's also has economies of scale. So like the model is profitable itself.
Okay.
I mean, do we do profits at the moment? Of course not, because of course it's an optimization process, but the model itself is profitable, and it's going to be profitable in the long run. There are companies in US and in Turkey that are already profitable.
Okay. One last question, Thomas.
I want to take you on your link between the food and the health, of course. Tell me, the utopian and the dystopian version of the same thing. The utopian one is, Are you also bringing better food to areas in cities where, in North America, extreme, Europe a little bit less, but also same problem where, certain socioeconomic groups in certain areas in the cities have less access to fresh food, quality food and so on. So is this an opportunity also to basically get better food, fresher food, to a wider audience or a wider consumer base? And the dystopian version of this is one day, could you be forced by certain governments to nudge people into basically that you only deliver the stuff, the food they should eat, and basically it's so personalized that instead of my beloved whatever, I only can get berries, or I can only get fenchel or so, which I really hate. But the system tells me, and there's no way around it. So basically, you become almost like a rogue agent of a betterment of human beings through nudging by a central state.
I think both of them are possible. But I don't know. It's like it's a bit fortune telling, and like when you. I mean, I don't know, but I always think about this. So at the end of the day, when the game gets to a different level, of course, like this wouldn't be my preference. And if we get to that point, probably like we would be much more smarter about like how it's gonna happen. So your question is, these kind of things is like like it's just an entrepreneur dreaming about it, and it normally doesn't happen. So probably these will not happen, but you just have this dream and you just go towards somewhere. What I can tell you about what we do today, because this is like the picture that I drawn is more or less like an exciting vision that excites us so much that we come to work every single day for the sake of transformation. So we don't know how it's going to look like. It's a vision and it's somewhere there. But what we do today, that's I think most important. Our vision for today is immediate access to essential needs, and it looks quite capitalist. And how we interpret this is this way: in first world countries, immediate access to essential needs are quite different. And actually, if you go to some parts of Africa, the immediate access to essential is clean water. So that's why I'm personally involved, and also like the company. Like now, I build a huge team in the company to realize this clean water project, help a clean water project. So this is one thing that we do. Second thing is, I forgot what I was going to say, but this is the first thing. I mean, my focus is now to actually have the clean water project up and running in terms of the giving part. On the second part, immediate access to essential needs. I mean, this is a very interesting thing. It looks super capitalist, but what happens if you give immediate access to anything, to anyone? Let's say that I give you immediate access to bananas. I'm sure you're gonna eat more mindfully and more respectfully, because scarcity, the moment you put scarcity in people's lives, I think they consume quite heavily. And this is also what we see from the comments from our community. They say, because I have more access, I don't buy like there's no tomorrow. So that's why automatically they buy the amount they need, which results in less waste in the households. So I mean, my ex-wife has experienced this. I mean, I think the model itself has different sustainability topics that we discover on the way.
Okay, so there was another very last question. Please. We're waiting for the mic.
Questions.
Hey, Kağan. Excuse me. My name is Sven. I work for Slate, and we own, for example, around 200 grocery stores in Germany. So I'm very interested in this topic. I have two questions. One, do you see the 4 major grocery brands in Germany as potential competitors in the future? And second, like Lidl, Rewe, Amazon, they have delivered groceries as well, and they have failed, or it's not profitable for them. What have they done wrong, or what are you doing better?
Of course, I see any kind of traditional player, I mean, not as a competitor, but as a player that we play in the same domain. So I mean, we are too early to talk about we are a competition, so it wouldn't be humble, but I think we are doing a different thing, because in this cave example, you know, like what they do is they say that, okay, like there's no food in the cave, let's stay in the cave and let's go on Saturday to get everything. But what we do is we just grab that apple. But to become more tangible on to your question, if you look at the online models before, there's a survey from McKinsey, like from 5,000 people in Germany. The survey is this: I don't do groceries online because of that. So like it gives this to the survey respondents. There are two things. One is long delivery times and delivery windows. People don't enjoy it. Second one is I want to touch things. So first one is, okay, like I think it's a very important point to, you know, like the fundamentally first part is the psychological part that I just mentioned with the caveman. The second part, I want to touch things, is a super interesting part that we do much better. The question is this: what do you want to touch? Do you want to touch Pringles? You don't want to touch Pringles. You want to touch fresh items, right? Because you want to make, these are the ones that has, you know, inconsistency. And it's the hardest category to maintain. If you have 1 hour delivery or next day delivery, you bet on good quality in the category that has the biggest mistake rate. And that's why you receive most of the time, like at least like every third time, every fourth time, a quality that somehow doesn't satisfy you. And that's a huge detraction point. Because why? Because there's no way back. Then you can do your complaint and you just get a voucher code, but you don't eat that banana at that moment because it was bad. In our case, if you don't get the goodie in 10 minutes, you get the better version in 20 minutes. And most of the time we realize before you get it that we sent a bad quality. This is almost like a digital touching field in my point of view. That kind of breaks this detraction point. And third thing that I think we're doing quite well is this, the assortment basically. If you look at a supermarket, 60,000 SKUs. If you take top selling 2,000 SKUs, it will be like around 45 to 65% of their revenue share. So it covers 45 to 65%. If you go to a discounter, this is already 100%. Some discounters have been operating less than 2,000 SKUs. So with low amount of customer-centric SKU selection, you can actually cover big, like the needs, you know. And third thing is, if you look at our assortment, we have Zeit, for example. If you're in Berlin, you probably have queued in front of Zeit. We are not only getting this best of supermarket worlds, but also the local partners, the bakery that you queue in front, you know, the donut shop that you always want to take your kid to. So we are bringing a super customer-centric assortment with this in this minimum space. I think these three things we are completely over-delivering compared to any other supermarket.
Okay. Kağan, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yes,
Take care and good luck.
Yeah, we need a lot of real estate space, by the way. I'm just kidding. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.